Hey everybody, welcome back to Magic Mind. You are here, my friends, because you, like me, know that magic is an art form with the ability to move and entertain people like no other. But you know that developing this skill requires diligent practice and a detailed understanding of the craft. So my goal with this show and company is to provide you with the community to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you to develop your magic. With me today, all the way from Belgrade, Serbia. He's well known for his work and advice on cruise ships. He's been seen by millions from his appearances on Serbia's Got Talent and now Croatia's Got Talent, and he's been seen by hundreds of you guys. That's right. This is his second time on the show. Emir Samardzic. I owe an enormous debt of gratitude to this man. For being the first person on the show. If it weren't for him, the show wouldn't exist. Here's a little known fact. Before the first episode that you all saw, we recorded an episode that was completely trashed due to recording errors, and he was so patient and kind during that time that I couldn't help but have him back. Ladies and gentlemen, although mostly gentlemen due to my, or given my YouTube analytics, Emir Samardzic. Emir, welcome back to the show.
Hi guys, thank you for having me back. And so first of all, that was again amazing introduction. Like I like watching like all the interviews, all the other interviews, and just like listening to the introductions of other magicians. Like I think like you are really amazing in that field. Uh, Before like we begin on today's subject, I just wanna say to the viewers, if they don't know it already, what an amazing guy you are. So as you said right now, like I was in the first episode, and so what you did, or what Christoph did, is he actually sent out these like postcards, like thank you postcards and little presents. So I have it right here.
Oh,
So he sent me like the like this thank you card, and inside is like a message, and it was really great. And here is like a really good, actually the best version of any card with any number that I've ever seen, and but it's mine, so I'm not gonna share that. It may be released someday, so you never
ooh.
know. So apart from the thank you note, he also like put in this bookmark in a shape of a student's hat, because of like magic mind cat. Okay,
Mm.
but it's actually really great. And so that is the guy that like Christoph is really, and like he goes out of his way really like to bring you guys all these episodes. So thank you, Christoph, for what you're doing for us, first of
Wow.
all.
Well, thank you. That was really beautiful. I'm blushing, I think. I don't know. I can't
Oh
really see myself right now.
yeah, me neither, but
Let's
it's
get
okay.
into the subject of today's podcast. You have a lot to talk about in the way of performance, routines, and why the audience should care, which are three of the most important categories to tackle in the world of magic. And also, I tend to think three of the least talked about. People like to talk about the new tricks, creating, but really what's important as a magician is performance, routining, and figuring out why your audience should care. So let's get right into it. Let's start with performance. I'm going to
Right.
let you go on.
Thank you. Yeah, so the reason basically why these three subjects are probably the least talked about is, well, I like to believe that this is the reason, is because all the professionals, it's not like that they are not wanting to share. It's more like they're letting other magicians develop their own performance styles, or, way to approach people and all that. But I believe like it should be shared, not maybe in a way, okay, you should do this and you should not do that, but more in a way, okay, this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing that. So if it clicks with you, perfect. If it doesn't, maybe, it will click with someone else, which is also fine. So out of the gate, I want to say that maybe like this podcast will not be for everyone, in a way that maybe you already have your own performance style. Maybe you're not interested. Maybe you're just like a move monkey, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. So just so you know, it will be about how to approach the audience, how to build up your routine, and why should actually audience care. Also, this podcast is for magicians who are actually performing for regular audiences, not like for friends and family, because
Yes.
they always care because you are their friends or family. But this is actually like unknown people, maybe a paid gig, maybe you're, wanting to record a street magic video and you want to approach unknown people. So this is basically what this podcast will be about. Okay, so if you're still here, enjoy. So Performance. Uh, I was actually sitting recently, like maybe 2 weeks ago, with a few of younger magicians from Serbia here in Belgrade, and there was like four of them, and it sounds like I'm really old when I say this, but like they are younger by age, and also I'm almost 32. Jesus, um, so they're younger by age and also a lot by experience. So and they were like sitting there at the table, like doing all these moves. And one thing also I want to say is um, I have nothing against move monkeys. I am a move monkey myself. There are videos of me doing pass and clip shift on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and please go and watch that if you wish. I think I did a pretty good job. So
Yeah, I've seen
uh,
them. They're good. I've seen that clip shift. That was probably the first cliff clip
clip
shift
shift.
I think I ever saw. Was yours on YouTube?
Thanks. Oh, and there's also a video of me doing the Usher twist, and there is actually a comment from Lee Asher himself on the video.
Really?
Yeah, in the comments, Lee Asher
Wow.
actually congratulated me, telling me I did a good job. So hey, hi, Lee Asher, if you're watching this, thank you, and please do a video series of Magic Mind for Christoph. Thank you. Okay, please be a guest on the show.
Yes, please.
So yeah, so I'm a move monkey myself. I have nothing against it. I think it's amazing, and I still practice my skills. Like I sit at home all day doing coin magic, practicing, and I've never performed coin magic for anyone. I just like being dexterous for myself. Okay, so that's all good. Now, so I'm sitting like with these guys, and so I was sitting with these guys, and so they were doing all these card moves and card slides, and they're really good. And so I asked them, okay, so tell me, like, by the show of hands, like, who here wants to perform magic for a living? Who here wants to, go out and actually perform magic for regular audiences and not just amongst each other, magician to magician? And two of out of the four guys raised their hands. I was like, okay, come show me a trick. And he was like, right now. I was like, yes, right now, come. I am an audience. I know nothing about magic. Come show me a trick. And I think like that is the worst thing you can say to a magician if you are a magician, because it's really hard to pretend. But it's also really good exercise. So he was like, okay, and he came and he did two-card Monty. I was like, okay, do a two-card Monty for me as if I was a regular audience.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, okay, and I swear I'm going to like recite his pattern word for word, and I'm not exaggerating anything. It
Oh
was
no.
literally like this. Okay, so we have the ace of diamonds, but just remember diamonds. Okay, so hold it. Okay, now the ace of hearts. Just remember hearts. So hearts, diamonds. Okay, so I'm gonna show how I'm gonna switch the cards, and then I'm gonna do it. Okay. Okay. So which ace do you have in your hand? I was like, okay, diamonds. He was like, okay, and he put the other one on top. Okay, so you say the diamonds is on the bottom. I was like, yes. Okay, turn them over, and I turned over, and it was like two queens, and that's it. Like that was like
Okay,
his
listen,
entire.
Amir. I promise I've gotten better since then. I've worked on my pattern. It's gotten better. I swear.
I was just about to say it's not you, but like, okay, so, uh, and then I put myself in the position of an audience, and it's like it was a physical reaction of saying, "Wow, you fooled me." Now, if fooling people is what you are going for, then okay, then good, perfect. Keep doing that. Whatever makes you happy, keep doing that. I'm not bashing any style. I'm just like trying to make a difference between
Mm-hmm.
different ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your thing is to just fool people, then you're good to go. However, I was like, okay, but I didn't feel like literally my whole point of me as a participant, as an audience member being there is to hold the card. Like that is what I was for. Like if he had like a plastic hand to hold the card, he wouldn't even need me. That is how much involved the audience member, was
Mm-hmm.
in this trick. I was a prop, not the cards. I was a prop for holding the cards so he can switch them. That's it. And I was like, okay, technical part is as good as it can be. It's Tucar Monte, how difficult it can be. Now, why should I care? Really? Why? And he was like sitting there, trying to like think, and nothing came up. I was like, okay, so tell me, like, why should I care that you can switch the cards? Apart from, okay, wow, you fooled me, or yeah, that's a nice trick, or yeah, you're fast with your hands. Me personally, if I'm a magician, I'm performing magic. I don't like people saying I'm fast with my hands. Like I believe like that is one of the worst responses I can get as a magician is, wow, you're fast with your hands, because then it becomes a skill. I mean, everyone knows it's a skill. It's not real magic, blah blah blah, on subconscious level. But
Right.
that's not like that's not the reaction I want to get. First, I want to get like his mind, their mind so open that they don't know how, and then maybe like in like 5 minutes they can say, well, maybe you're really fast with your hands, when like their cognitive like process starts kicking in, so on and so forth. But like not the first reaction be like, oh yeah, that's neat, yeah, that's cool, you're fast. I don't want to be fast. If I want to be fast, I would be running 100-meter dash, like I wouldn't be doing magic. I don't want to be fast.
Well, hang on.
So mhm.
This is something that I recently heard that I thought was really interesting, and it's exactly what you're talking about. In a lot of professions, we say, wow, he's so good, he makes it look easy. A magician cannot make it look easy. A magician has to be perfect to where it looks magical. There can't be any explanation. If it looks easy, it's because you're seeing his moves and he's doing them well. It's got to be even
Exactly.
above that to where there's no moves and it's magic.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And I agree 100%. That's like, if you remember, like in the first podcast, we were talking about keycard principle,
Right.
like because it's completely like hands off. You don't do anything. It hits the hardest, right? If there's actually a video I saw recently of Alex Pandrea, and
Hmm.
he was like exposing like his control like card from the middle to the top, and like it was a joke. It was a parody, like when he did a diagonal palm shift, palm to palm transfer, the pass, the whatever. He did like 15 moves to put the card back on top. And it's funny. Like you should watch it. It's amazing. It's I think from the session, I believe. I'm not sure. But anyways, so he did it as a joke, and I was like, wow, like he's so skillful, and it looks amazing. But it's exactly that. Like even if he does it perfectly, and he does it perfectly in the video because he first performs it and then reveals it, you still see that he did something. Even me, the magician, didn't see or know what he did. I saw he did something, and I will always say, "Wow, you're really good with your hands," right? And if he did the kicker principle or self-working trick, then I would have nowhere to go.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, actually, lay audiences, tell me, "I don't like magic; it makes me feel stupid because like, I cannot figure it out." I'm like, "You're not supposed to figure it out. It doesn't make you stupid. I don't know how to operate a space shuttle, and I don't feel stupid for it. It's just I never learned. So how could I know?"
Yeah.
That's the same thing for you guys. Like, how can you know how a magician did something? You cannot, because you never learned. So you're not stupid. You just didn't learn, and that's it. And that's how I actually calm the audience from feeling stupid if they don't know how the trick works or whatever. But anyways, so the whole point of to get back on topic is like, so why should I care about this two card month or ambitious card routine or whatever? And it's very simple. Like it's a technique that salespeople use a lot in sales, is asking questions. Okay, ask a volunteer or the audience member a question and get him involved. For example, like off the top of my head, for I don't do Tucker Monty like anymore. I did it like 10 years ago, the last time I believe. But for example, okay, tell me, how good is your memory? Well, not so good, or it's amazing, or it's very well, or if not, if I'm drunk or whatever. Yeah, and then I will be like, okay, let's try it out. And I actually like saying like, how's your memory? If they say bad, I was like, perfect. That is like that's good. Like this will actually work. So I make a little joke about the memory or whatever, and and then I go into, okay, so try to I'm gonna try to confuse you,
Hmm.
but you try and remember like which card is on top or whatever
Hmm.
you say for the two card monte. Now he's involved in the effect. Now he's like, now we are testing his memory. Okay, now it has the purpose, and now like he's trying to actually remember and be involved. I mean, this is like the most simple like presentation of them all for two card monte is like memory test or whatever. but it's so much more than here, hold the card while I switch them.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense. Just by asking question, okay, so tell me, how good is your memory? That's it. You get them to open up. They will joke about themselves at that point at least, or they will say something, or maybe or you can say, have you ever seen like whatever those gamblers on TV, or do you watch poker series if poker is your
Right.
presentation, whatever? Just ask them questions and they will answer, and from that answer you can create a conversation. From the conversation, then you can involve them into the effect, right? Um, like one of the effects that I'm like known for, I mean, whatever that means, is the Chicago opener, because I believe I've done it more than like bajillion times.
It's amazing. I know, just
on
working on a cruise ship, you got those hours in you
Oh yeah,
thousands of times.
thousands of times. And there's actually a video on YouTube like of me actually explaining,
I've
uh,
seen it.
yeah, the Chicago opener in like what 45 minutes or something, or it's even longer. I don't remember. So there's so much like intricate details that can go into Chicago opener, but so why should like anyone care about anything that you do is by giving them the reason to care. Ask them question, build your routine around them and not you. It's not like look what I can do. It's look what you can do, or look what we can experience together. And this phrase like has been thrown a lot around a lot. Like what I'm saying right now, I've seen it in so many places, but not many people adapt that. I believe it's always like, what is the new trick? What is the new move? If I go to a Magic forum, it's always what is the best deck of cards, um, what is the best palm, what is the best this and that move. There is very little. And if I actually create a thread on a forum, Magic forum, about presentation, it maybe gets one or two replies, and like a thread about best deck of cards gets like 7,000 replies, like instantly. So, and it's good. I said it's okay if that is your thing. Please do your thing. Whatever makes you happy, do it. You only live once, which is good. But if you really think about actually performing and doing magic for a living, then maybe you should just like broaden your horizons. So how to make audience care is by asking questions, is by making presentations meaningful. Actually, there is in Strong Magic by Darwin Ortiz. I actually showed the book in the first podcast. I remember like one part because I read it a long time ago. I should really reread it. Um, he said that there was this stand-up comedian who said a joke about like when you like uh, uh, what's the word of the 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 thingy that dries your hair.
Oh, blow dryer.
Blow dryer. Okay. So like when you're using blow dryer and all of a sudden like you think that your phone is ringing.
Okay.
It happens a lot. Like when you turn on the blow dryer and then like all of a sudden you hear your phone ring, and then when you turn it off, the phone is not ringing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the guy who puts those like that devices inside the blow dryers. So that's like what I do for a living. I put those devices in the blow dryers. So that is the example of a comedian like in the Strong Magic book. Like the comedian told that joke, and that joke is only funny because it's true, because it happens to all of us. All of us like heard the phone ringing like with the blow dryer, or like vacuum cleaner, or whatever device that you turn on.
Right.
If it makes any noise, any loud noise, you will like sometimes think that you're hearing your phone ringing. And it's funny because it's true. If he like told a joke about space shuttles, for example, or something, it may not be that funny because people cannot relate to this joke. They can relate because it happens to everybody, right? Not everybody is driving a space shuttle. So I believe like we should apply the same principle to magic. Like if you are going to build a presentation around something, make it meaningful in everyday life. Okay, so try not to like come up with a presentation that is so far out there that no one cares. It make it like, okay, so tell me, like, did it ever happen to you that like you're trying to so hard to remember something and you're not able to remember, then as soon as you go back go to sleep, bam, it hits you, right? It happens to everyone. Let's try and jog that memory right now just by using two cards. Okay, and maybe you can lead like that into the two card motive or whatever. It just like make it relatable. Now let's talk about the actual performance and the actual how to build a presentation and how to build the effect, or let's say a set of 3 effects. for example. There's also like I believe it was also in Strong Magic. My memory sucks, by the way, while we are at memory. Um, but uh, that people like number three for some reason. Like everything comes in threes,
Yeah.
like beginning, the middle, and the end. Like it's ridiculous, but it's true. So if you're building a set, make sure it's three effects. It works like a charm for whatever psychological reason. Um, I sometimes go for four, but it kind of has a feeling of three. Never mind. Anyways, so like how every book has a beginning, like introduction to the story, and then like the plot, and then in the end it's like the plot twist or the ending crescendo, whatever, right?
Yes.
Every movie has three parts, like the introduction of the movie, like the story, blah blah, and then it resolves in the end. Every song has an introduction, a chorus, and crescendo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and it's been like that. Every book, every movie, every song, it's been like that for since the beginning of those things, right? Right. So there's a reason for it, that it lasted for so long, and people are still watching movies, people are still listening to the music, people are still reading books and stories. So that formula works. Okay, it works. Let's just agree that it works.
Mm-hmm.
You have a beginning, you have like a plot or whatever. There's like I studied that actually like earlier. There's a conflict, and then there's a resolve, and there's a crescendo, whatever. Like there are 7 steps, I believe. I forgot, but let's just say it's 3. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you should like build your effect same way. So introduction of the effect. Okay, so let's take mm, Chicago opener for example, right? So the effect of Chicago opener is very simple. They choose a card, you lose their card, then you find their card in a specific way, and then you do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's like the very basic idea. So introduction is the part where you say, who you are and what you're going to do, and actually taking out the deck of cards and explaining what is going to happen. So basically, if you don't know how to actually do it, that's actually a really good sentence from Gregory Wilson. He's like, if you cannot hide it, point it out.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot hide something, point it out. And it's amazing. Like it can be applied to a slide, it can be applied to a presentation, it can be applied to everything. Okay, if you cannot hide it, point it out. It's amazing. So if you don't know how to lead into, let's say, Chicago opener, and you really like the effect, make fun of it. You can say, like those corny tricks like that your uncle used to do, like when you have a deck of cards and like you choose a card and you lose the card, and then he finds the card in an amazing way. You know that one? Okay, let's do that one for the beginning, to warm up or whatever. And then you lead into it and they choose a card. Okay, so now that's the first step, is explaining pretty much what is going to happen. Not what is going to happen like surprise in the end, but what they should expect. Okay, you build up the expectations, so they will be more prone and keen to watch. If you don't do that, people are likely not going to watch you because they have nothing to look forward to, right? So they take a card out, they remember it, you put the card back in the deck. Now it comes the middle part, the part where you actually are going to find or try to find their card.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the premises like memory or money or whatever, would that go in the beginning part as well?
Of course. Oh yeah. That's the beginning part. That is definitely the beginning part. The beginning part, the English. The beginning part is there to actually lure them in, to draw them in. So asking them a question has the purpose of drawing them in. Building a meaningful presentation is, again, the purpose of it is to draw them in, right? So that is definitely the beginning part. So you ask a question. Let me ask a question. How good is your memory? Or did it ever happen to you when you just like forget things? Or I like what hypnotists use. I'm a hypnotist, by the way, as well. The famous line, what is it that you're not thinking about right now? Which confuses the hell out of people because what? And then you just make them forget their name or whatever. So you can lead in sort of like that. Okay, so did it ever happen to you that you're trying to remember something and just cannot go through? I found a way how to. I found a way how to actually provoke that experience. Let's do that. and then you just jam their memory because they thought it was aces and it's the queens or jokers or whatever. You can build around it. But it's much better way to get into something because now they care and they're like, oh yeah, I remember. And then you say, it's a bold statement. You can say, I can recreate that experience. Let's do it right now. And they're like, now they're at the other edge of the seat, waiting for that experience to be recreated. Now they're going to want to watch. And hi, my name is Emir, and I'm a magician. Let me show you something. Here, hold a card. Does nothing, right? I hope like you can feel the difference between the two
Absolutely.
through the camera, right?
Absolutely.
So basically, you said Chicago opener. So you mentioned that you're going to do a corny uncle trick or whatever. If you don't have other ways of the other presentation for it, they take a card out, they remember it, shuffle it back. Now you're going to. I actually love this question. Like I ask this question all the time. So for those of you who don't know the Chicago opener, it's first the back of the card changes from whatever color to color. So in this case, from red to blue. So they choose a card, they lose the card, and now it's going to change on the back. They don't know that, by the way. So after they lose the card, I ask them. I put the deck down on the table, my hands are completely free, and I ask them, so I don't know what your card is or where your card is, right? They say, right. So what would be the easiest way for me to find your card? And I just wait. And you will hear the most ridiculous answers on the planet. Like, they usually say, well, you can ask me what's my card, you can pay me to tell you what my card is,
Right.
you can, whatever. And then I tell them, it's simple. It would be easiest for me if your card was in a way, in any way different from all the rest. And then I go like, oh, that's right, that is the easiest way. And it's just an amazing moment. Like I use it just for fun, just to hear what people can come up with. So I ask them, what would be the easiest way for me to find your card? Is if it was somehow different from all the others, right? Right. Then you snap your fingers, or you take a blue color off your shirt, or whatever blue there is around you, or you can pass your shadow, whatever, doesn't matter. Then you spread through the deck, and they see one blue card. Now there comes the reveal, the resolve of everything. You do the double lift, and you show, and I asked them like, would you be amazed if this was really your card? And I use that to actually get ready for the double lift. And they say, of course. And then, what was your card? And as they are saying it, the card I turned over at the same time. It also serves as a purpose to cover the double lift if there is any need. So they're saying it, and I turn it over at the same time. It's also a really nice like Hollywood effect, where they get the audio, the rest of the audience get the audio confirmation and the visual confirmation at the same time. Boom! It's just a nice piece of theater, I believe. Now, and everyone applauds like, "Oh my god, how did you do that?" Blah blah blah. Now, I think comes the most important part in the entire effect and how you build this up. So now you have to do the effect again, and this probably goes for every effect that requires you to do it twice in a row in order for the actual effect to work, right? So I casually just put the odd blue card down on the table as if we don't need it anymore, and I say I do this a lot. If it's a larger audience, like more than 2 people, I point to someone who either is reacting the least or reacting the most, like screaming, running, hiding under the table, or whatever. I point them out and tell them, "You don't look very impressed, are you?" And and I wait for the answer. Again, I'm trying to now involve them, and it always is a person who is furthest away from me. And you know the reason if you're doing the Chicago opener, because for the first card you spread the cards for them to take it out. The second one you do the Hindu shuffle force. So it would be ridiculous, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. But it would be ridiculous to offer a choice of spreading the cards to one person, and then the person next to it to offer the Hindu shuffle force. Why would you do two different things? If you just did one thing, why would you do a different thing for the other person if there is no reason for it? And there is no reason for it because they can reach for the card. So I pick the furthest person away from me that cannot physically reach the cards. So I have to shuffle the cards and just show them. So I will not. So I don't have to like go walk around the table or lean over the table or whatever. So there has to be a reason for it, right? And that is my reason. I just pick the furthest person away from me, and I ask them a question, or I tell them, "You don't look like very impressed by that." and they will always try to like how to say it. They will try to. By the way, guys, it's midnight here, so my brain is not working. So forgive
Yes.
me for like struggling with words at this moment.
Yeah, just thank you
Um,
for being here.
well, yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I'm actually happy to be here. Don't worry about it. I'm just struggling with words. And you can always jump in with a word if you know what I'm trying to say. They'll always try to defend themselves. They'll always try to be like, no, no, I am impressed. Really, like I'm an introvert person or whatever. I like messing with people, you know. And I'll be like, no, 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 I understand. I'll do it again, just for you. What's your name? Jack, whatever. And then I say, because you're too far away, just say stop for me. And then I do the Hinder Shuffle Force, which now makes sense why I'm doing it, because he's too far away. I do the effect the second time. I repeat everything exactly the same. If I took the blue off my shirt, I will take the blue off my shirt again. If I snap my fingers, I will snap my fingers again. If I pass the shadow, you get the point. Do the
Hmm.
same thing twice in a row. Copy paste the first performance and the second performance, because they will not expect the ending that way. If you do anything differently, they may suspect that something is different. And then I go through the cards the same way I did the first time. If I spread the cards on the table the first time, I will spread them again the second time. If I spread them between my hands, I'll do it the same way. And then I pretend like and then there is no blue card, and then I say, no, 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 it's in there somewhere, and I search for it again as if I'm really thinking it's in there somewhere, blah, blah, and then I reveal in the end. So, and now their screen run and so on and so forth. So the few points here is uh, every move, if you are building and creating a routine, has to make sense. Why you are doing what you're doing. I think it's the most important thing in Magic, at least to think about. Okay, if you're not going to do it, at least think about it. Think about your effects, like if you're doing a Bishop's card or two card Monty or Triumph or any card, any number, whatever. Think about why you're doing what you're doing. Try to give it meaning and try for it to make sense, because the more sense it makes, the more it will fly over your audience. The less likely you will be to
Hmm.
the less likely they will catch you out, and less likely they will try to find the solution, because everything made sense. They have nowhere to go, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean. If everything makes sense in their mind, that's it. Their box is closed. They have nowhere to go. If something is not right, they will grab onto that, and you're done. Like
So,
there's nothing you can recover. Even if they guess wrong the method, it doesn't
mhm.
matter. It's for them. It's the same. If they think it's one method, your trick is ruined, even though it's the wrong method, right?
Right. I have an example of how having that motivation covers the trick really well. So, obviously, when you're a young magician, your parents at one point learn almost everything you do because they're usually the people you perform to the most. My mom has seen my
Yeah.
double lift a billion times, but when I did Chicago opener, I fooled her, and it's basically a double. That's almost the entire trick revolves around that one move. But the reason she didn't see it is because it's yes, it's a move, but it's also a revelation. Why would you be doing another move at the point of is this your card? And so because you have those two moments laced on top of each other, no one is suspecting a move there. No one is, because they don't know there's a second half to the trick. No one's looking for it, and that's exactly what you're talking about with having that little cover to mask what you're doing, and it does work
Exactly.
well.
Exactly. Oh, and while we're at that, so we have this situation at the top of the deck, right? So you have your blue card here and their red card underneath, right?
Yeah.
So you need to do the double lift now.
Hmm.
What I do is I peel off the top card as a single, and I flick the card and say, "Would you be impressed if this was your?
Oh.
Would you be blown away?" And now this is what I do. Literally, I peel off the card and say, "Would you be amazed? I'm sorry, amazed, impressed, blown away if this was your card?" So I put the card back on top to gesture like blown away with both of my hands, which gives me the reason why to put the card back
Yeah.
on the deck, and then I turn it over. It's
Oh.
and I turn it over as they are saying the card, so it's also the misdirection of the voice, the actual justification. So I feel it and say, okay, so would you be impressed if this was your card? Would you be amazed? Would you be blown away?
Yeah.
And then zick, and then blah blah. So that's
That's
what I
really
do.
cool. And for people who don't know the Chicago opener, I think below this I'll link your full 45-minute in
Oh yeah,
depth
I think
instructional
like
thing.
I think the video is like closed or whatever, however you call it. Like I don't think anyone can find it, but if you link it, I think they will be able to see it, right?
Okay, good. And at the
I'm
very
not a
beginning of
technical mag,
this,
so. Huh?
At the very beginning of this, you talked about you kind of asked a cheeky question. What would be the easiest way for me to find your card? And then you have all those ridiculous answers from the
Yeah.
audience. Peter Turner has a very similar line, and I hope this isn't giving away too much. I don't think it is. I think he talks about this a lot. But when people believe that you can do all these things and they start to suggest things, Peter Turner says, "What would you do if you had my abilities?" And then they start to think of things. I'd break into this person's phone. I would do all this and this and this and that. You start to
Yeah.
get credit for all those things, even though you never did any of them. So when you ask
Yeah.
an open question like that, if you could do what I'm doing, how would you choose to find the card? Then they have all these ideas, and you get credit for being able to do those, even though maybe you can do none of them. But it's just a really cool little twist on that moment.
Yeah, it's true, and I agree totally. So yeah, you actually get credit for it, and also it's interesting. Like when you tell people that you're doing hypnosis, first of
Mhm.
all, like people are scared of you, like oh no, don't look at me, and then they start asking like similar questions, like well, if I they're like saying like similar things. They say like, well, if I could hypnotize, I would like rob a bank, or I would like seduce all these women, or like this,
Yep.
and like at first like I'm the bad guy that's doing hypnosis, and then all of a sudden like they start coming out of their shell like, well, I would like I don't know murder people in the street like if I could do hypnosis, and so it's actually really funny. But yeah, I agree with Peter, and also like I want to like mention Peter. Um, because we are talking about presentation, when I say like add presentation, like meaningful presentation to your performance or to your effect, it doesn't have to be Peter Turner style, where like you imagine your childhood and your grandmother baking you apple pies and like flowers and feelings and trees and snow and like that kind of deep
Yeah.
meaning. No, just like get people to care enough to watch,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like that's your entire job, okay? Because you are paid to be there. Okay, first of all, if you are being paid to be there, so we're talking about the actual gig, right? So you're a performing magician. You want to make a living out of magic, as like I want to believe most of us do. So now you're at the gig, and there is this couple, for example. There's nothing worse on this planet that than bothering a couple that are out, especially on the first date, for example. Like they don't want to be bothered at all. They don't even like the waiter coming over, let alone a goofy guy with a deck of cards, right?
Hmm.
So you have to make them care somehow, right? Um, I will share a story with you. Um, I never felt the level of cringe in my entire life than at that moment towards myself. Like I was a complete idiot. I actually tell this story in the first podcast about like when a guy proposed to his girlfriend and I was there.
I do not. This doesn't sound familiar. I remember the one about a drunk man eating your sponge balls. I thought that's where you're going, but I don't remember
No.
this one.
Oh no, this one is cringe worthy. Like please guys, like cover your ears, like because it's coming. Like I was like one day on the cruise ship, and I by the way I have like, and I believe, and a lot of people told me it's like the best version of John Bannon's Twisted Sisters. If you know the effect where
Yeah.
there are a pack of red cards and pack of blue cards, and then they name a color, and it's only those queens that are turned over, and they name the suit, and it's their suit in their packet, and all the other cards are completely blank, right? Well, I do the mentalism version of that effect with ungaffed cards and just the presentation, some equivoke, and it's amazing. And the presentation is like, my presentation is do you know that feeling that you get when something amazing or unexpected happens, like all of a sudden? And then you think to yourself, okay, but what would have happened if you left your house, let's say 5 minutes earlier, right? Or if you turned left instead of right, what happened then? Um, well, pretty much, I found a way to recreate that feeling. So, for example, if I never started doing magic, right, I would never have met Christoph, and we would not have this conversation right now, right?
Hmm.
Maybe Christoph right now, because it's afternoon at his place, instead of being home recording the video, maybe he would be out, and maybe he would be hit by car right now. Maybe Christoph would have died at this moment. So maybe I just saved Christoph's life, right? It
Yeah.
can actually go back that far. Well,
Yeah.
I found a way to recreate that feeling. Would you like to see it?
I would.
Of course, because now I pulled you in with a
Hmm.
personal example. So that is like the premise of like
Yeah,
my
sure.
amazing sisters, whatever. So there was this couple on the cruise ship, and I didn't know, I didn't have this knowledge, but the guy proposed to his girlfriend literally 60 seconds before I came to the table. Like literally, it was happening at that moment. Like it was, will you marry me? Yes. Tada! Here comes Emir for some reason. No, I remember what was the reason. Sorry, the maitre d of the restaurant on the cruise ship required me to go and perform for them. Yes, because they just got engaged. However, I didn't know that maitre d was an idiot.
Ah.
That it's the most emotional moment of their entire lives. I'm not supposed to be there. No one in this entire planet is supposed to be there for the next half an hour at least, right? In order for them to hug it out and like for the girl to calm down or whatever. I didn't know like it was 60 seconds prior. I thought like they got engaged on the cruise maybe 2 days ago. I don't know. And I came over there. I started this amazing presentation. Like I literally turned into Peter Turner at this point, and like I grow all these tattoos and beard, and like I started like talking about destiny, and you would not believe, like they were looking at each other and at me, and I could feel like halfway through they're thinking, what the frick is this guy doing here at this moment? I never felt so uncomfortable in my entire life, but now I'm halfway into my fight. Now I have to finish. I don't. I didn't have to finish, but I was an idiot. I was thinking I have to finish the fight. No one ever cared less for what I had to say or
Ooh.
do in the world at that point. And like they hated me. Like I could physically feel hate in their eyes on just because it was the wrong moment.
Yeah.
Effect was amazing, but the moment was the worst moment. Like I think like the only worst moment would be funeral, I believe, and that's pretty much it. Like funeral is the only worst moment than proposal.
I'm so sorry
To
for your loss. Pick a card.
exactly. Maybe we'll find his soul like I found your nine of
Oh
diamonds.
no,
There you go.
that
So
hurts.
it hurts so much. Yeah. Um, maybe put. So, but no, no. Wow. Okay. Idea. They signed the card right at the funeral with his name, like with with the deceased name on the card, and you put him into the graveyard, and then you snap your fingers, and he rises from the grave on the top of the deck,
And then it appears inside his pocket.
and he appears inside the
His
pocket,
pocket, inside the
and then
casket.
exactly folded inside the casket like this, like so he becomes abomination. Okay, so we have some editing to do
Wow.
apparently. Um, so I don't see ideas like see now they would care about your ambitious card because you're putting their deceased like relative into the grave and he's rising out of the grave. It's has meaning, so it's good. See how the brain works.
Yes. Yes. Magic in
Yeah,
the making.
instantly. So you're welcome, guys. That would be $30, by the way. So, uh, anyways, so where yeah. So you need to like make them care about what you're doing. I know I said this like 15 times so far, but it really needs to like sink in. And I'm saying like take a list of effects, okay, that you're doing right now, even if it's like two card monte, ambitious card, whatever, and see first of all individually how you can how you can make each effect for the audience to care, not like emotionally like crying care, but like like just pull them in, like get them interested in what you have to do and say, okay, and also then see how you can routine those effects together even though they have nothing in common. For example, right now, like not right now, 2 days ago actually, I did like a mini performance of I did a ESP matching routine, followed by a drawing duplication routine, followed by I don't know if you know this effect. It's called Freak by here we go. It's Freak by Dave Forrest. Okay, it's really great effect if you're like into bizarre and like scary magic tricks, whatever. It's
Okay.
with photographs. It's amazing. So basically, I did Freak, I did ESP cards matching, trick, effect, and drawing duplication. And even though each of those effects have nothing to do in common, I managed to like combine them together into the routine about, like how, for example, the J.B. Ryan, and he did the effect, the Sixth Sense. where he tested his that he did a test to see if people who claim to be psychic are really psychic. So he used the 5 ESP symbols, which I have the bracelet actually, by the way.
Right.
So and then first of all, I got to be like the participant, and the actual participant got to be JB Ryan, right? So they were testing me, right?
Okay.
So I had to like guess which of the symbols they're actually focusing on, and then in the end, like all 5 of the symbols match what they were thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Then I lead and said, but that was only the first phase of the effect, and then I actually went into the stealth case. I'm just pulling out the tricks out of nowhere. Like I went into. I'm a magician. What did you expect? I did the stealth case by Steve Cook, which is amazing. Like if you're doing any kind of mentalism, like this is a must-have for sure. By the way, I'm not sponsored by anyone, so please.
Neither
like,
am I.
yeah, no one paid me anything. I really stand behind these like effects. So actually, Peter Nardi has a really good presentation about like JB Ryan and droid duplication. So I used his. So I'm not going to reveal the actual presentation here. About like how now like the second phase of the JB Ryan's testing was not to guess the symbol but to guess the drawing, right? So you go into drawing duplication, and then I went to like the completely different like Dave Forest Freak, which is like about mass murderer who killed all these women, and you have photographs of the victims. And then I said, and then for the third phase, the participants had to guess, had to solve a crime, because they were actually, what they didn't know from the beginning is that they were actually recruited for military and police services, right? And the best ones went to the CIA and the FBI and whatever. So I like, and so the participants guessed who was the victim and everything. So in the end, they win. Like, so the whole point is, in the beginning, you show them how they should do it by doing it yourself. Then they do the drawing duplication, and then they guess the murderer. So it's 3 completely different effects, but like I tie them all up in like one big, testing their skills, their mind skills, and if they could actually like be, I don't know, part of the Secret Service or CIA or whatever, you know. So try like to get 3 completely different effects and routine them together to make sense into one complete performance. I could like do this mini performance like of 15 minutes from beginning to end, and I can like do it in like and charge for it like for a 15-minute like a mini parlor show, whatever, close-up show. Because it makes sense even though it's 3 completely different effects, right? So when it comes to routing, as we were saying earlier, there's a reason there is always a beginning, a middle, and the end to every movie, to every book, to every song. I don't know, did you listen or listening to Linkin Park?
No.
No. Okay, well, Linkin Park is a band, right? And they have amazing songs, but every single song is exactly the same. In a way that there is a beginning, okay, a nice slow beginning, then there is chorus, then there is the second part of the beginning, so it's pretty much the same as the beginning part. So beginning part, chorus, second part, which is the same as the first part, or similar, and then there comes this like growling, like screaming, yelling, blah blah blah, and then it dies down in the end. Every single song follows that formula. Low beginning, chorus, second part, chorus, growling, screaming, yelling, and then fades out. And they are and it is one of the most popular bands in the world, even though every single song is exactly the same or follows the same pattern, right? What I'm trying to get here is don't be afraid to use the same principle over and over again if it works, right? So your effect should have a beginning, which is a lead-in, which is where you open up the audience, as we said. So you ask the question that is relevant to them. You explain what is going to happen. By the way, like a lot of magicians don't like telling audience what will happen in the end. I'm not saying tell them what will happen in the end. I'm just saying tell them what is going to happen and a way what to expect. Don't ruin the surprise, of course, but you need to tell them what is going to happen, because now they have something to expect. Now they have a reason to watch, right?
So what could be an example of this? Let's say in Chicago opener 2-card monster.
Okay.
Could you tell
So
them?
Chicago opener, it's very simple. You tell them that okay, so you don't know like how your uncle does the trick where when
Right.
when you choose the card, you lose the card, and then he finds the card in an amazing way, right? Let's do that. I didn't say in what amazing way I'm going to find their card, right? I didn't ruin
Okay.
the surprise. I didn't say, and then your card is going to change. Let's do that. It's going to be different from all the others, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just said, and then we're going to find it, right? Or you can also lead in with the same thing where the card disappears from the deck. You say, we're going to find it, but then there is no card. So now you have a plot twist, right? So they're expecting one thing, but they get the other thing in the end that they didn't expect. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So you tell them what to do. You tell them what is going to happen, basically, so that they will have a reason to watch. But then in the end, you're not telling them exactly what is happening, right?
Right.
You're not ruining the surprise of, and I never said that the other card is going to change back to the first card. I never say that. I just say, okay, let's do it again. Now they expect the exact same thing is going to happen the second time. And then when you have a completely different plot twist, then they react even more because they were expecting one thing and got a completely other thing, right? If they didn't have any expectations, the reactions would be lower, if that makes sense. So if you're expecting one thing but get a much better thing, you will react a lot more than if you didn't know what to expect, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Exactly. So that is like for the Chicago opener. If you're doing like 2 card Monty, you can say, okay, so how good is your memory? They say it's bad. You can say, okay, let's test it out. So now they know that something about memory is coming, right? About testing their memory. You will never say the cards are going to change in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're not ruining the surprise. You're just telling them what to expect during the effect. It's a very thin line, by the way. So it's a thin line that you need to thread, but I'm hoping that I'm coming across clearly enough here. Okay, give me another fact. Anyone? Triumph, for example.
Okay, sure. Triumph.
Triumph. Okay, so you tell them. Okay, you can tell them. If you're going to use like the drunken like spectator or whatever, you can tell them. Okay, so I actually never do Triumph apart from the drunken guy presentation, by the way, where I say that like I had a performance where a drunken guy took the deck and he shuffled them all like the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I never tell them. Okay, so you can tell them that you had this awful performance when spectator was so difficult on you that he actually took the deck away, and while you were not looking, he mixed the cards.
Yeah.
Now you can tell them that in the end, like you managed to find the card, but you don't tell them how, because the orientation of the deck in the end, where they're all the same way, is a surprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not pretty much ruining the surprise, but you are telling them what to expect. Well, Triumph is pretty much difficult to explain because
What if
it
you
doesn't
said
require
something like, I'm gonna find your card, but before I do that, I'm gonna make this as hard as possible myself. But
Yeah,
you don't necessarily
perfect.
tell them what the challenge is until they see that you're mixing it face up, face down.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, you can tell them, exactly. So you can tell them, and trust me on this one, as soon as you are saying, even if you don't say anything prior, as soon as you say, take a card and remember it, they know what's coming.
Yeah.
They know you will find the card in a certain way,
Yeah.
right? So it goes without saying, right? So just don't ruin the surprise. Don't tell them exactly what is going to happen, right?
Sure.
Just hint at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Just hint at it, and then you have two choices. Then you have two options. You can either meet their expectation, but in an unexpected way, or you can do a plot twist where something completely different happens that will even more blow the mind. So pretty much lead them down the wrong way, so they will, so that it will be impossible for them to backtrack because by the time they
Right.
figure out what happened, they have no connection to how to do it.
And I think that's what's nice about Chicago Opener is you get the first phase where you get to meet their expectation, but the second phase you get to have that plot twist where it almost adds drama, and that's something that most Magic tricks don't have. Right, in Chicago Opener, you look for the card that changed, and oh no, it didn't go there. And because everything is most Magic tricks are so straightforward, pick a card, I'll find it. Having a twist in there is nice, and Chicago Opener gives you, with the both phases, it gives you the twist and the straight version, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an amazing point. I actually I managed to like practice my acting of messing up that people really do believe I messed up. And
Yeah.
at that moment, like you can pick out the ones in the audience that will go like, ha ha, like those. And if, like, for example, Chicago opener is the first effect that you do, and if you hear someone say, ha ha, you messed up, excuse me, or whatever, you know not to pick that person as your spectator for the next
That's
effect,
a good
right?
point.
Because it's a really good way to actually pick and choose your spectators. The
Hang
ones
on.
that
I want to make sure people are hearing stuff like that because there's a lot of different ways to learn. You can learn by doing, and maybe that'll happen, and you'll end up picking that spectator again. The people who know the most, the people who are the smartest, are people who can hear Amir say that and then just forever know to do that. Know that if
yeah,
someone goes, haha, never pick that person. So make sure
exactly.
when you're listening to these things, you're actually keeping them, and you know from now on not to do that, not to pick that person.
Exactly. Yeah. So make a mental note at that moment, like, okay, so this guy is not only not feeling sorry for me, but he's actually
Right.
making fun of me. So that's
Right.
not good. If you find someone who does feel sorry for you or is trying to help you, then they are a good spectator.
Right.
Um, if I mean, I can ask people to like watch my Croatia's Got Talent semifinal performance, but I don't think they will understand anything. But in that performance, I did the same thing. I pretended that I messed up, right? Because I was trying to predict the lottery, and then the number that was on the board was not matching the number that the judges picked,
Mm-hmm.
and so I acted like all like, oh geez, I messed up. And you will hear that if you understand Serbian or Croatian, you can hear one of the judges say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your trick." It was that good of an acting that they actually said that in a live show,
Yeah.
like, and I have it like on video as a proof. Um, they actually felt bad that I messed up my trick. And the point is, like what you said, is actually now it adds drama.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, oh no, he messed up. How can he actually now get out of it, right? And some
Yes.
people will try to help you. Some people will try to make it worse for you. That is also, as you said, like good way to pick and choose your audience for the next effect. And that means that you did your job good, right? Because now they care. Okay, now they care one way or the other. They either care to help you out or they care, to bust your balls. Pardon my French, right? But now they are in the effect. They're not just, watching some guy doing stage manipulations, like producing 17 bajillion cards
Yeah.
out of nowhere. It's nice, it's pretty, it's amazing, but why should I care that you can pull out 50 cards out of the thin air, right?
Sure.
I'm not saying I'm not saying if you're doing that, like that, again, it's not wrong, it's not bad. Maybe you're just not going for the effect of why should audience care. Some audience do care only because it's pretty and it's great, right?
Right. Right. Sometimes that's
Personally, I'm
enough.
I'm I'm looking to like touch people like on a more like deeper level and get them involved more personally, if that makes sense. That's why I like
Sure.
close-up magic the most and like close-up mentalism the most, is because I have that interaction with people. Like I've done stage shows, I've done stage magic shows, I've done stage mentalism shows, um, and it always felt much colder for me. Like even though like instead of three people clapping, I have like 200, 400 people clapping, which is really really nice. But yeah, I didn't like, it's good and nice, but I didn't feel like I touched anyone personally. I probably did, I'm sure I did, but it doesn't feel that way, right?
Yeah.
I like to have interaction with people, right? So I'm actually trying to find a way how to market myself to have like intimate, like maybe 5 to 12 people shows only, like closed environment, so I can actually interact with all of them, um, which will actually be really really good. Now,
That's
as you
really
can,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's where I feel the most comfortable in that environment. 5 to 12 people. I mean, of course, let's say from 1 to 12 people, the most is where I feel the most comfortable in a way that I can be myself, right? I like being on stage, like I love stage. I wouldn't be in those shows, first of all, if I didn't like millions of
Mm-hmm.
people looking at me, right? But it just has a completely different vibe than, the close-up situation. By the way, guys, if you didn't notice by now, I like to like go wide when I start talking. So, Christoph, please make sure to bring me back on track, like every 45 minutes, just like bring me back
All
on
right.
topic.
All right.
So, give me something concrete. What should we talk about? What did we cover so far? So we covered that they should care in one way or another, right? Meaning that ask them questions. Okay, so if okay, well, let's pick one thing out of all of them. It will be easier for you to get you started. In order for them to care, ask them questions. Questions that are related to the effect that you're going to do, right? Don't ask them how is your cat. It's good. Okay, now hold the card. Right? Not those kinds of questions,
Yes.
but ask them questions that are relevant for the effect that you're going to do for them. You don't have to make it complicated. Number one, you don't
What
have to make it complicated
you
in
know
a way.
who says something
About
very similar? There's
hmm
a I don't know if you know Hannibal the Magician, but he has a video on YouTube called
okay,
like sell me this pen or something. And the whole
okay,
premise is the way you would sell a pen is first you ask the person what they use pens for. It's the exact same premise. You ask a question to find out why it's relevant to them, and then you play to that. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Do you have a good memory? And then you figure out a way to tie their memory into the trick. Have you ever been scammed before? And then you find a way to play that into the trick. So I know that's exactly what you're saying. You find out why it's relevant to them, and then you try and gear the trick as much as possible to that to make sure it's relevant to them. That way they stay engaged and pay attention. Otherwise, it doesn't matter to them, right?
exactly. And if you, for example, this just like came to me like the second you just mentioned it. You can also make it relevant. Like if you want to take it a step further, make it relevant for the people that you're performing for in a way. If you're performing for high school kids, if
Mm-hmm.
you're performing for older women, if you're performing for businessmen, uh, for example, you cannot like use the same. I mean, you can, of course, it's you, but like you can, you should be able to adapt to different audiences, right? So if you're going to perform, let's say, Tukar Monty for a high school kid, you can either say, would you like to know how to make money quick? Of course,
Yeah, yeah.
like everyone wants to make quick money. Or would you like me to show you how to cheat during the exam? This
Okay,
is how
yeah,
this how you can switch the slips of paper to actually, whatever,
yeah.
change the questions that the professor is asking. I know like the system in the states, but like this is how like you can change the questions quickly, so you can put the questions in the professor's hand without him noticing the question that you prepared in advance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Like this just came off the top of my head,
Yeah,
which makes it
it's
relevant
good.
for the high school audience, right?
Yes.
Uh, if you are, talking to a businessman, then you can, talk more seriously about maybe, scamming, playing poker, whatever they do in the free time, or making a lot of money instead of making quick cash. Maybe we can talk about making a lot of money. With older ladies, you can, like I don't know, take out the two jacks instead of aces, and talk about two two hot guys or whatever. I mean, I'm just
Yeah, sure,
yeah,
sure.
vomiting things, but like make it relevant,
Yeah.
for the audience. Like, don't talk to older women about memory. It's insulting.
Yeah, yeah, that's unfortunately not something you want
Don't
to do.
like, no. But like, so pretty much, if you want, I'm saying if you don't have to, but if you want to take a step further, try to adapt the same trick to different audiences. Not the slides, but of course the presentation. Right, make it relevant for people who are you performing for.
So
Right.
let me ask you something. Um, when you're preparing all these things for TV and stuff, you're worrying about that, but also I'm curious to know what effects you choose to do, and then in live shows, how you choose which effects you're going to do together, right? Which effects are going to go back to back to back, and how you sort of decide that. When you're putting together more than just one routine, but a set of routines, how would you go about doing something like that?
On the TV.
Well,
On the
yeah, on the TV, but also in live shows, because I'd imagine on TV
oh,
you're not stringing together a whole lot of things. It's
yeah,
more
of
like
course.
one big trick and then you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess more in live shows.
Okay. Well, TV is simple, by the way. Just do the effects that don't require any angles. Not because you will flash, but because you can never rely on the camera guy. Okay,
Hmm.
unless you pay him in advance. And even if you pay the guy in the editing room will mess with you. Okay, so just do, if you're going on TV, do the tricks that don't require a lot of focusing on different things. Don't do like small things in your hands, because they will change focus from your head to your hands in the wrong time. Just do keycard principle. You're golden, right? So for the TV, just don't rely on camera and you'll be good. For live shows, um, how to actually string effects, right? Is okay. So basically, It follows the similar pattern as before. Um, Usually, like the formula is this: do a quick and visual opener to grab their attention,
Mm-hmm.
then do, for example, I don't know, sort of like involving, like trick that will involve audience in the middle, and then do the best one for the end, right? Do your closer for the end. That's like the general formula. Like do something quick and visual in the beginning to grab their attention,
Mm-hmm.
then you can do something meaningful in the middle, and then close with the bang, right? It's a great formula, by the way. But it doesn't have to be. Okay, I actually played around with that a lot. Your opener doesn't have to be an effect at all. First of all, you as a performer are your best and biggest and most important opener, right? If you as a magician suck, it doesn't matter what kind of opener you have, right? I actually read, and I have it, but I cannot pull it out of nowhere right now because it's in the other room. David Stone's book about close-up magic, restaurant close-up magic, and he likes to open up his fire wallet to
Mm-hmm.
grab people's attention, right? Because now all of a sudden there is fire all around you.
Right.
It's an amazing opener in a way that you will grab people's attention, right? But think about this, right? If people do not expect a magician, meaning that you don't have a name tag on you, or if a big like billboard in front that's saying that you would be in there,
Mm-hmm.
even though you grab people's attention and now you approach them, now you're this freaky guy that has a wallet on fire, right? It can backfire, no pun intended. It can backfire on you in a way. Of course, it depends on the demographic and whatever, but still, you don't need to have a visual quick opener to grab their attention. You can grab their attention using words,
Mm-hmm.
using your attitude, using the clothes that you're wearing, right? Like you using your voice. I used to do like for a long time. I used to do the sponge balls. So this was my a restaurant set of three sponge balls, followed by the crazy man in handcuffs, followed by invisible egg. Right? Those were like three tied together.
Sure.
And now the sponge balls, the first magical effect that happens 1 minute into the trick. So you have to be entertaining and attention worthy for 1 minute before anything visual or magical happens. That's a really, really tough thing to do. Okay? It's not easy to hold someone's attention, people who never saw you before, right? Um, before anything magical happens. But it is possible. So all I'm saying is you don't have to like limit yourself. Okay, what would be a really good quick opener? Well, I don't really like doing flash paper production, but I'm gonna do it anyway because that's what the book said, right? Don't think like that, okay? You can find other ways to grab people's attention, right? Um, so the point is, think outside the box, right? So that is how I used to string my effects. Okay, so why? Sorry, well, I see. I told you, put me back on track. So so why SpongeBob's Crazy Man handcuffs and Invisible Leg?
Invisible. Yeah.
It if you're doing a performance for people, let's say it's a restaurant or a coffee shop or anything where there's a table, right? You want to reach either verbally or physically as many people as possible, right?
Right.
The worst thing that can happen, and I've seen this happen a lot of times, is let's say you have a table of 10 and you're only focusing to the two people nearest to you. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing because all the other people will lose interest after the first effect and you're done. Okay? You may as well just, do the private performance for those two and leave. Okay? That's not good. So what actually like what? Oh no, I did the stand up Monty as well by
Garrett
what's his
Thomas.
name? Greg Thomas. Yeah, amazing effect, right?
Yeah.
I also used to do that, and I'll tell you why. Those are the four effects. I knew I told you before I had four effects. So SpongeBob's, uh, Crazy Man Handcuffs, Stand Up Monty, and Invisible Act, right? And that was like a depending on the timing, but around 10-minute act, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where was it? Yeah, so you should try and reach out to as many people as possible, either verbally or physically, right? So, for example, Chicago opener, you pick the person nearest to you to take a card out of the deck, and then you pick the person furthest from you to say stop when you're shuffling, so they can remember the card, right? So now you involve two people, right? Even the one that is furthest away from you. Also, a really good exercise. I forgot where I read or heard this. I maybe it's not even a magic related, but in order for you to check if your audience can hear you, ask a question, ask a person the question that is furthest away from you.
Oh, that's
If
smart.
they hear and reply, then everyone else, of course, hears you because the furthest person away from you did hear you. If that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So ask the person furthest away from you a question, and if they reply, that means that everyone can hear you, which is a really, really good way of also opening things, right? You can have come and say, "Hi guys, my name is Emir. I'm a magician here tonight. How are you all guys doing? Good." Bam, you, and you point to the whatever furthest person away. Would you like to see something really cool, for example? Okay, so any question, okay? And if they reply, you're good to go. Where was I?
Well, you're talking about engaging as many people as possible.
Exactly, engaging as many people as possible, right? Now, so I do the sponge ball, right? Where first of all I produce one ball out of thin air, and while they're inspecting that ball, I load the other one, and then I split that ball that they just inspected into two, and then I do the simple gag of like giving them one, I have the one snap fingers, they change places, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of like patter and presentation going before anything magical happens, right? And people are still having fun, people are still laughing, people are still
Right.
really excited to see me. So whatever, then now the spectator has two balls in the hands and it's all nice and dandy. That is like for the person that is on closest to me and to my right. If imagine like a long table of two people on each side and like
Okay.
long table, right? So then I do the crazy man handcuffs either to the next person on my right, okay, which is still at my arm's length. By the way, I'm 6'6", so my arms are really long. So it's still at my arm's length. Or I switch to the left side and go to the either first or second person on my left. Because I do the two phases. First phase is in my hands where the rubber bands go through, and then the second phase is they're holding one and then the rubber band goes through. It's the version by Daniel Garcia, where the crazy man handcuffs where it goes through in their hands. So I use then that the second person. Then I go back to the first person on my left that I haven't used yet, and I'm doing the stand-up Monty. If you don't know what the stand-up Monty is, go check it out. It's an amazing effect, and it's highly recommended. It's not sponsored by Garrett Thomas. It's where you like do the three-card Monty, and the cards are changing, and you're pulling them out of your pocket,
Right.
and you're using spectator's hand as kind of a table, right? So now, first, I engage the person on my left, the closest to me on my left, as if I'm doing the trick for him. So I first talk to him. I get him to guess the first or first two tries. Then after that, because I do like 4, 5, 6. I've even forgot like by now phase effect. Okay, it has a lot of phases.
Mm-hmm.
From that point on, I do like 1 or 2 phases on him, and then even one maybe. Every other phase, I just go down the line. I just ask other people. Okay, so one card is in my hand, one is in his hand. Where is the queen or whatever is the pattern, right?
Sure.
And now they guess. So even though they're like 6 feet away from me, they are involved in the effect.
Mm-hmm.
The spectator on my left is now he serves as the actual prop where he holds the card, but he doesn't feel like it because he was involved in the first 2 phases. So he's now used to holding cards in his hand, whether he is involved or not, right? And now I'm involving his friends, so he's happy to hold the cards for his friends, right? Because they're far away.
Right.
So it's not the same thing. So I go like around the room, and then let's say, like after all those effects and phases, there are like 3 or 4 spectators left that I didn't reach verbally or physically. I do the invisible deck. I throw the invisible deck to one person, tell them to open the box and like give the card to the other person. The other person shuffles. The third person takes out the card. He shows it to the fourth person. The fourth person remembers the card, and then the chain of action goes back. They throw the case back to me. So now I have 4 people involved in the invisible deck. the effect where they can just name a card and it will be turned upside down.
Yeah.
I involved 4 people out of nowhere, and now everyone, like the entire table of 12 people, feels that they've participated, and they all feel like the part of the show, even though I can physically reach 2 or 3 people
Yeah.
out of 12. All 12 of them feel like they've participated, even though not physically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Shuffling in Invisible Deck is actually physical involvement if you want to look at it like that.
So let me ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How, and I don't know if the answer changes from close-up to stage work, but how would you transition between effects? So you talked about SpongeBob's, Crazy Man Handcuffs, Invisible Deck. I don't know if that answer changes from stage and close-up, but the transitions from effects, how do you
Right.
manage those?
It's a lot more difficult, I believe, for me at least. Maybe for some it's not, but I believe it's a lot more difficult to transition between effects on stage than close up, because first of all, depending on, of course, the effects that you're using or doing, props that you're using are a lot bigger on stage, and on stage, after every single effect, you have that moment or that break of, okay, give Jennifer an applause, you can go back to your seat. Now who wants to help me out next? Jack. Okay, give Jack a round of applause as he comes to
Yeah.
the stage. So even though maybe you tied the presentations together with effects together with the presentation, you still have those cuts where you need to like thank the person, um, and send them back to their seat and inviting another person to come up on stage. Or if you wish, you can have like immediately 4 people on stage and use them separately for each effect if that is what you want to do. But then after you're done with the first person, then they're standing there on stage, like doing nothing, looking around. So it's really difficult. It's a lot more difficult to juggle between effects, spectators, involvement, and tying everything together and making everything work in a way that you don't lose, first of all, tempo, which is really, really important in the performance.
Yeah.
Not to lose speed, tempo, also not to lose the interest of the audience, also for everything to make sense, also to pick the right audience member to participate. So there's a lot more directing going into the stage show, music, lights, smoke, whatever effect you're going for, right? So on stage it actually will have to look like 5 or 6 different effects, one after the other, right? So, for example, one of the best performers, in my opinion, of all time, Darren Brown, right?
Yeah.
Look at his stage shows. They do have the same premise in a way, but you can clearly cut every single effect easily. You can
Right.
separate them easily. You know where each effect begins, and you know where each effect ends. And then
Right.
there's the break, and then there's the next effect coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he cannot do it in that kind of way, I believe it's really, really difficult. As I said, I'm not that much of a stage magician as I am a close-up magician, so maybe it's easier for me, and my brain is probably wired that way to
Sure.
think easier close-up than stage. However, I did manage to do a 45-minute stage show,
Okay.
in 2 parts, where the first mentalism show, by the way, where the first part is psychologically and like scientifically whatever based, like
Scientifically.
based on science, of
Yeah.
course, English. So based on science or psychology, right? Body language, Sherlock Holmes type of
Sure.
thing, whatever. J.B. Ryan. And then the second part, so there's an intermission, like a 5-minute break, whatever. And then a second part, which is more like Q&A act, pure mind reading, more like Sixth Sense type thing. So that is the closest that I've come to like putting two different parts together in a way that okay, so this is what you can do using psychology and knowledge that is provided elsewhere. So basically a truth and lie detector routine, murder mystery solving routine, I don't know, whatever routine, maybe a magic square routine where you're using your like brain power to calculate fast. So pretty much all the skills that you can actually really learn, but you just do them in a little higher level. So using pretty much magic techniques, right?
Yeah.
And then so that part makes sense because you're explaining to the audience how you can use your cognitive skills in a way, right? For example, what I like to use is I use the memory palace. I don't. It's a memory technique where you like exactly. So it's memory. For those of you who don't know, memory palace is a memory technique where you imagine your own house or any house that you wish, and you go around the house in your mind and like you put objects in places where you will be able to remember them, and that is how you are actually really able to remember 20, 30, 50 pieces of information in less than a minute, right? So what I like to do is I like to. This is how I round up that part is I begin with explaining like what is mentalism because no one knows what is mentalism. I explain what is mentalism and what a mentalist is, and then I say let's do a quick demonstration, right? So it will make more sense. It will be a lot clearer for you what it means. And then I have like 20 audience members just naming animals, right? And I have one audience member writing the order of the animals down, right? I go through my mind palace and I place each animal to its place. And I say, okay, we'll come back to this in half an hour. And that's it. So now it is really skilled because now I really have to like remember like all those 20 animals while doing other effects in the meantime. And then like so I do the chair test routine is my finale for the psychological part, right?
The what?
Where I
The what test?
Sorry?
What test? Sorry,
Chair test. Chair test.
I don't know if I know
Chair
that.
test. Yeah, chair test. It's like where you have 4 chairs and 4 spectators, and you predicted where everyone will sit and envelope they will choose. And just Google chair test, and there's like a bajillion versions of it. So I end up because it's a really nice stage prediction when you like have a huge envelope and you take out the paper out of the envelope and like tada, I knew what is going to happen in advance, right? And so I finish my psychological part with a chair test where I do the tada revelation. And then I say, oh, wait 1 minute. If you remember, like half an hour ago, at the very beginning, I asked you to name animals in a row. Do you still have the paper? Yes. And then I go through my mind palace and I start naming all the animals and blah, blah, blah. And it's correct and it's good and it hits. So that's how I round up the psychological part of the performance is by opening with the memory palace and ending with memory palace. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but theatrically it does, so to say, right?
Okay.
And then I say it's intermission 5 minutes, and then I come up on stage. I can even change like the shirt or whatever, and then I come up to the stage and say, okay, now, for example, let me show you what you can do with the actual psychic powers, and I go into Q&A, so on and so forth. By the way, since I have been doing magic for 10 years and mentalism for the last, I don't really know how long, but few years, it's a lot harder to actually string mentalism effects together than magic effects together and to make sense. Yes, I remember now what I want to talk about. Now, we can make this the last thing. If you're going to it's about routining your effects. I see this mistake all the time. If you're going to routine a few effects, make sure that not the method that you are physically doing, but the method in your presentation do not cancel each other, if that makes sense. For example, let's say I do a mentalism effect where I tell you, okay, just imagine any word that you can think of, okay, and write it down. And you imagine and you write it down, and now I look into your eyes, I read your mind, and I reveal the word. And tada, it's an amazing effect, right?
Okay,
How the hell could I know the word, right? Then I do whatever, and then my third effect is a book test, where you take a book, you go to the pages, you find the word, and whatever. And you find the word, and then I guess what word you picked, and the page number, or whatever. The first effect is a lot more impressive than the last effect. Because in first effect, you could think of any word in the entire world, like anything, and I guessed it. And now I'm limiting you to one book. Maybe you shuffle the cards and deal down, and then you take the 2 cards, and the combination of the 2 cards is the number of the page, blah, 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 blah. So you go through the like 20 minutes process to choose a word, and then I guess the word. It really cancels each other out in a way that why do you have to go through all this process of choosing a word now, where before you could just think of a word and I know it, right?
Yeah.
Or Another example is, let's say, first effect, I pretend to read your mind, and I read your mind and I guess the word, and then the next effect, I pretend to read your body language. Okay, so let's do a lie and test routine. You get to choose if you want to lie to me or tell the truth. Well, it makes zero sense because a moment ago you just read my mind.
Yeah.
So so what is the point of me lying to you? You will know if I'm lying since you can read minds, right? I hope I'm trying. I hope like
No,
I'm
it does make sense. It's a lot harder with mentalism to stay
a
consistent
lot
because
harder. It's a lot harder because you will always
you're pretending like it's real.
unintentionally cancel your methods out in a presentation, right? So you need to really think about it. But even in Magic, like, um, for example, um, you're doing, let's say, ambitious card routine,
Uh-huh.
right? So you take their card, you put the card in the middle of the deck, you snap your fingers, and the card is now on top. What is that saying to the audience? It says to the audience that every time you snap your fingers, you can find their card,
Yeah.
right? Now, after that, you do a trick where they have to uh, deal and cut and shuffle again and cut and deal and again, like 20-minute procedure in order for you to find their card.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you just freaking snap your fingers and found my card?
Yeah.
Why do I need to now go through all this process
It's
of
funny.
find?
There's a quote that's coming to my mind that's Mark Twain. I think it was Mark Twain said, "A man who tells the truth never has to remember what he said," which implies that someone who lies has to keep track of all their lies. And since magic, all the presentation and stuff isn't really real, we have
Yeah,
to keep track of all our lies and make sure that they all make sense together. Which is why it's so hard, especially with mentalism, because it's much more a claim of skill and all that. Well, it's hard to try and make it all fit together in that way.
exactly. So if you're trying to like string three card effects together, really make sure that methods in the presentational methods
Yeah.
don't cancel each other out. You can string them the other way. You can tell them first when I just got into Magic, this is how I used to find people's cards, and then you go through a 20-minute procedure and you find their card. But now, 10 years later, I'm much more proficient. Look, if I just place the card in the middle, boom, I snap my fingers and it's on top.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense because now you made it in a way you progressed. It's progressive. It went from worse to better instead of from better to worse.
Right.
So if you are going to do the similar thing or canceling each other out, do the worst one first, do the better one later, and tie them up with the story.
And that goes
If-
back to what you were saying before with routining.
Exactly, yeah.
Step one is attention grabber, middle, and then at the end you want to have your strongest piece. That's where you want to finish on the high note, the most
At the
impressive.
end, you want to have your strongest peak. So, and you have to sing them together because if you do those two separately, so again, they will say them, why did I have to go through a 20-minute procedure earlier if you can now just snap your fingers and the card is on top?
Mhm.
If you can give them an explanation and reason why that is happening, they will question it, right? If they don't question it, by the way, they don't care. They didn't think enough about it, right? So, one important thing I want to talk about, and I just remember. So you're going to put in the comments that like a really important part is coming 7.5 hours into the video. Uh, it's the focus of the effect. So let's take an ambitious card for an example, right? I see all the time this mistake, especially in ambitious card or any other effect that has more than one phase, uh, and that is running through the phases like nothing happened. Because we as magicians, we are used to seeing ambitious card all the time.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing effects, magic tricks all the freaking time. So of course we don't look at the tricks and effects the same way the audience does, right? If let me just try and see my camera just a little bit. So for example, if I let's try it like this. Okay, so for a layperson, okay, if I take a deck of cards, I showed on the top card the Queen of Clubs, right?
Yeah.
And I drop it for some reason because I'm a skillful magician. Okay, cut. So I cannot do it from this angle. I'm trying to angle at the camera. So if I take the Ace of Clubs, right,
Yeah.
and put the Ace of Clubs in the middle, and I snap my fingers, now it's on top, right?
Yeah.
They never seen this in their entire life.
Yeah.
This to them is impossible. What most of us do is this. Okay, so whatever. The three of diamonds. We're gonna put the three of diamonds in the middle. Snap my fingers and it's on top. Right? I'll do it again. Watch. If I take the blah blah and do. Wait, wait. Where, where are you going? Stop it! Like I've just seen something I've never seen in my entire life. Uh, we are not focusing. Magicians are not focusing on magical moments in their effects enough. They're brushing them off as
Uh-huh.
if it's something that's supposed to happen.
I want to
Uh,
jump in here.
yeah.
There's a book, Maximum Entertainment, and Ken Weber, the author, talks about that a little bit. Laymen
Mhm.
have no idea if what they're seeing is impressive. They have no idea. But what you were demonstrating right there with the magician who says, "I'll do it again. I'll do it again." He makes it look like it's not impressive. He's not
Yeah.
treating it as if it's something that is earth shattering. But if you do, the layman will pick up on your energy and assume that what you're doing is insane, and you'll see better reactions just by reacting a little bit yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the whole point. Um, you don't need 15 phase ambitious card.
Mm-hmm.
I do 3 phases, and I only do three because I would do two, but the third one is just because it fits my story and presentation about the trick that fooled Houdini and there's Houdini in it and whatever. Um, but if I take the card, I put the card in the middle, I snap my fingers and now it's on top. That is one of the strongest things you can ever do with a deck of cards, by the
Mm-hmm.
way. Okay? Let that sink in. Leave the cards on the table. Make that one phase as if that is all that was ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then maybe you can say, I know what you're thinking. Okay. You're probably thinking you want to see that again, right? Okay, I'll do it one more time. And then you do the second phase. And boom, it's on top, you leave the cards, you go home. They will be freaking amazed. Why? Because it doesn't feel like a routine where you 15 times do the ambitious card.
Yeah.
One phase feels like the entire effect
Yeah.
that you it feels like you did the same trick twice in a row instead of one trick with 2 phases, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So make every phase special. Okay. Uh, by the way, if you're doing the diagonal palm shift into a palm, into a side steal, into a top card cover pass, whatever,
Yep.
uh, to get the card to the top, it's good, but it will never be as good as turning 2 cards over as one, putting it in the middle, and it's on top. That is the cleanest phase of ambitious card routine ever. You
Mm-hmm.
show their card, you put it in the middle, snap your fingers, it's on top. There is nothing more magical. That should be the ending to the ambitious card, by the way, because you cannot give me an example that can top that one.
Wow, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I've got to say, I'm really guilty of a lot of things that we're talking about right now. I do, the ambitious cards that I do have always sort of been quick and multi-phased. And I certainly never finish with that two-card turnover, put it in the middle. But you're right. I think that is the strongest one. And I think I've been doing it backwards. I think I've really been guilty, or not guilty. Yeah, guilty of doing that incorrectly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like, just think about it. There is no phase cleaner than that.
Yeah,
Am I right?
yeah.
There, so what I do, I'll like expose my ambitious card, uh, because I don't use it as much anymore. And it's only $50, so why not? Uh, it's so I talk about the trick that fool Houdini, blah blah blah, the professor, Divernon,
Yeah.
Houdini, whatever. So the first phase is the Marlowe's tilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you tilt the deck, you put the card in the middle, bam, you do the double lift, now it's on top. I pause and I wait for their reaction. I don't go like bam, it's on top, now I'll do it again. I stop. It's like that's the trick. Okay? They will react. They may be silent for a while, for a few moments, but they will react.
Yes, that's something that Stephen Bridges touched on a little bit. He said when you're filming magic, always run the camera 10, 15 seconds longer than you think because it might take that long for the spectator to go, "What? It might
Exactly. Yeah.
take 10, 15 seconds.
Exactly. And my presentation for the ambitious card is I'm trying to recreate what happened like 100
Yeah.
years ago when Divernon showed it to Houdini. So the audience member is a Houdini and I'm the Divernon, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I wait for them to react at that moment. And it may take them a while, and they may say, "Wait, what?" or "What? How? What?" And I repeat whatever they say and say, "That's exactly what Houdini said." He said, "What? Wait, what? Huh? What? How did you know?" I said, "How did you know?" And uh, and they laughed, and then said, "But if you follow the story," Houdini said, "if you show me the same trick twice in a row, I'm gonna figure it out." So now I have a reason to do it again because that's what happened in history, right? I'm just
Hmm.
recreating history
Hmm.
because that's what Houdini said, right? And then I do the cleanest phase, which is turning over the top card, putting it in the middle, snapping my fingers, it's back on top. You will not believe the reactions that get. I get 1,000 times stronger reactions than like if I'm running, doing like machine gun ambitious card with like
Yeah.
phase after phase after phase.
Yeah.
And that's it. Then I put the cards down as if everything is over. Then I say, but then Houdini said, because I need a justification for what I'm about to do. That's why I'm saying always have a reason for what you're doing.
Yeah.
I said. Then Houdini said, okay, I want you to show me that one more time, but this time I want to make sure you cannot cheat. And then I take the rubber band, I wrap it around the deck, and I do the WoW 2.0, the WoW gimmick.
I don't know it.
There are two versions of WoW gimmick. The one that changed the faces of the cards from I don't know six of spades into the nine of diamonds or whatever,
Okay.
and there is a WoW 2.0 which is blank. I mean like transparent with the card back on it. So you can either have a card back or nothing, right? Which is perfect for ambitious card. I want to show you. It's in my bag of tricks. Literally. Sorry for the noise.
No worries.
Tell a joke while I'm doing this, so people will be entertained.
Oh, okay. Okay. Here's a good joke.
Okay.
Paladins is dead.
What? What was the joke?
Paladins is dead.
Oh,
OB64.
OB64.
Say something in the comments if you got that.
All right, I didn't, but please say something in the comments. Okay, so this is WoW 2.0. You see a
Oh,
bicep
right.
card,
Yes.
and it can either be that or it can be just transparent.
Okay.
Okay, so let me show you quickly. I hope the camera will be able to get this.
It's a little bit difficult, but we'll try.
Yeah. So let me, because my camera is retarded, by the way. Okay, so you have their card here. Let's say it's the Ace of Hearts, right?
Yeah.
Then you give them the rubber bands to
Mm-hmm.
inspect. As they're inspecting the rubber band, you activate your gimmick pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So the back is showing, right?
Right.
And you put it up so you show them transparent, of course.
Yeah.
Show them I have a piece of plastic. In the story it's a piece of glass, but I don't have a piece of glass, I have a piece of plastic. I hope it's transparent enough.
Okay.
They say of course it is. I'm like, okay, perfect. And just go ahead and check the rubber bands and it's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I take their card and I say, watch close. I'm even gonna leave your card face up. You will see the exact moment it comes on top, right? It comes to the top.
Oh.
So I'm gonna put the card right there in the middle. And the beautiful thing about this is that when you put the card in the middle, the back is still showing on the top, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I put my rubber band somewhere. Okay, so let's imagine that there's also a rubber band wrapped around the deck.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
Yeah, right. So and then you show clearly the deck from all sides, and you can put it on the table, right?
Yeah.
And then
That's a
you
good angle.
Yeah, and then you say, watch, I'm gonna do it one last time. See, all I have to do is this. Oops. It's a different orientation, sorry. That's an anticlimactic.
I was so tuned in. All right. Do all that again. Same build up.
Okay. So watch close. Okay, it's gonna happen extremely fast. You don't wanna miss this. Okay. All I have to do is this.
Wow, that is a. Oh, that's
And
why
then
it's
you,
called the wow gimmick.
yeah, and then you cleanly take it off, and you can show it like it's transparent. You throw this away. You give them their card. You turn all the cards over, so they will see there are no duplicates, even though
Wow.
it's signed. Yeah. So by the way, forget WoW 2.0 if you want to do like, and I'm not sponsored by whoever made the WoW gimmick. Uh,
Yeah, no one's
so
paying us.
right. So basically, the point is you can milk your ambitious card routine so much. You can only do one phase and just repeat the same phase as if you're doing them a favor.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, okay, I'll do it one more time, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but just for you. So watch close. Bam, done. Over. You can leave, okay. So the point is we are not putting enough emphasis on the magical moments that are happening. We are running through the effects. Or, for example, you just, I don't know, let's say you did a torn and restored card, right?
Yeah.
You just physically fused four pieces of paper together.
Yeah.
Okay, it's impossible to do. What people are doing is bam, bam, bam. Let's say you even did it perfectly, slowly, methodically. Like every piece magically came together, whatever. And people are finished. They're like, okay, check the card. Is it good? Good. Okay, boom. Now pick a card. Wait, wait. Where are you going?
Yeah.
Stop. Like you just did something impossible. You fused, like you did alchemy. Like you
Yeah.
fused paper. Like humans are not supposed to do that. So, or you take a coin and put it in this hand and it vanishes and it's behind your ear and it's here and boom, 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 and you're juggling with coins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting the coin in your hand and it vanishes, and if you can show both hands empty, by the way, that would be amazing. I cannot, but if you can, uh, that's it. You can leave at that point. I cannot like count how many times all I ever did. Someone, for example, hears that I'm doing magic. Like, oh, you're a
Yeah.
magician. Show
Yeah.
me something. Everyone has got this question. If I have a deck of cards, all I do is pretty much a double lift. Let me just quickly show you. If I'm feeling like cocky and I don't really like, I hate my life. Okay, so if I feel really cocky, all I do is okay, I'm gonna show you something. Okay, but it's very special, so watch close. Jesus Christ, camera, stop it. Okay, so I do the double lift and I
Yeah.
say, I show them the 8 of diamonds. I take it, I rub it on their sleeve, and I turn it over.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I do, because now this, by the way, this is the best thing they've ever seen in their entire life. Okay,
Yeah.
they're not sitting at home watching magic all day long like we do.
Yeah.
That right there is the best thing they have ever seen in their entire life. Okay, if they had a baby, it's probably the second best thing they ever witnessed in their entire life. Okay, and that's it. Let it sink in, right? Don't rush through, whatever you're doing. Um, Sometimes I just take a pen and vanish the pen and reappear the pen, and that's it. Like, it's those small moments where they don't know what's going to happen or expect what's going to happen when they say, oh, show me something, bam, pen is gone and now it's back. Done.
Yeah.
Leave.
I've just been saying yeah over and over, and I'm noticing this for the first. I've been saying yeah over and over for the last like 3 minutes, and that's just because what you're saying right now is really resonating with me, and I'm just thinking a lot, and I think one thing we should all be doing as magicians is taking the time to slow down and just talk about these things. We don't realize what we're doing. We're so used to seeing torn and restored. We've seen that a billion times that when we do it, we don't feel like it's magical. But we
Exactly.
need to try and remember that for everyone else, it is magical. So I really hope that people listening take the time, just in listening to this, to think about that for themselves in the things that they're performing. We don't have too much time left, Amir, so if there's anything you want to wrap up with,
Yeah, so
go
as
ahead.
I said, like put in the comments, like mark the beginning of this part and tell them please watch until like
Yes.
this very
Yes.
point, because it's really important. I was actually want to talk about this in the beginning, but of course, like my mind goes everywhere.
Sure.
Um, So basically, so to wrap everything up, okay, so let's start from this part. Um, let the magic sink in. Sometimes it's better to do one thing, not like one full like presentation effect, just one small thing like a color change, and you're done. Trust
Mhm.
me, like you will get in a lot bigger reactions for a simple color change if that is the only thing you do than if it is a part of like 20 phase routine, right?
Yeah.
Engage your audience, meaning ask them open questions, uh, make them care about you, and make them care about the effect you're doing by simply applying what you're doing to them, to their life. It's as
Hmm.
simple as that. Ask them a question that makes sense and makes sense to the effect that you're doing, and that's pretty much it. When it comes to routing effects, make sure that the effects are not canceling each other out in the presentation. So, you know, as for example in the ambitious card routine, don't do the cleanest phase in the beginning and then the most complicated in the end,
Right.
because it makes zero sense. If you're doing mentalism, it's extremely hard not to cancel your methods out. But please, for example, I gave an example earlier. If you watched up until this point, so I did a small mentalism routine with 5 ESP symbols,
Hmm.
followed by a drawing application, followed by a spectator guessing the victim of a murder, right? So first, I'm just a regular psychic guy who can guess 5 objects, right? 5 symbols,
Yeah.
which is which can be which can be statistically brought down to simple math. Okay, first you have 20%, then 25%, then whatever percent, then whatever percent, right? So
Yeah.
it can happen to everyone. Okay, so it's not as impressive. It's cool, but not impressive. Then I take it a step further, and I guess what the spectator draw, right? I
Hmm.
do a drawing application, which is impossible, right? So now I guess something that is out of this world, right?
Hmm.
Then I turn them into psychics, which is the most impossible, right? Thing.
Right.
Because okay, I can read minds, that's what I do. It's impossible, it's impressive, but that's what I do. But how can they read minds, right? And they do it. So that is the most impossible thing. So even though those two effects have nothing to do uh, with each other, they have nothing in common. I try to I managed to somehow tie them together, right? And it was also off the spur moment. All of that was off my head during the presentation, during the performance. I just went out to get a drink and performed the effect pretty much. So think about routining. So make sure that you don't cancel each other out, and as I always say, just like do whatever feels best for you. Um, do whatever you like to do. If you're a move monkey, as I said in the beginning, please do that. If it makes you happy, then by all means, I support you. If you're a stage manipulation guy, do that. If you're a mime, do that. If you are a juggler, do that. Whatever makes you happy. Okay. So the whole idea of my first podcast and this one is just to get you to think. If I at least got one person besides Christoph thinking after this video, I'm happy. Like this video has done its job, right? So just think about your performance. And again, I'm coming from. I know a lot of you guys don't know me. I'm not as famous as Dan Harlan or Peter Turner or all of the other guys that were here on the show. But I do come from a point of performing thousands and thousands of performances. I was on
Yes.
TV, I was on cruise ships. Like I have a lot of mileage behind me. Okay, and just because I English is not my native language, it doesn't mean I cannot do magic. so 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 pretty much just like I know it's difficult to listen to me and my broken English and my accent, but if you got one thing out of this podcast, I'm more than happy, and my job here is more than done. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can also send them to Christoph, and he can then send them to me or find me on social
Join our
media.
group. Our Facebook group is a really good place to talk to
Yeah,
everyone.
of
There's a
course. I mean,
little.
Facebook group. So ask all the questions. There you go. Problem solved. Ask all the questions in the Facebook group. Make sure to tag me so I will see it in the notifications. I'll come as soon as I can, answer everything, and we're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Amir, for being here. Thank you for helping us.
You're welcome, you guys. Thank you for having me again, and I hope to see you for the third time. Why not?
Yes, until next time.
Until next time.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Great job, dude.
All right, perfect.